So we are here. You could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Paula. I'm Jim Jones. My wife, Anna, and I are the founders of Freak House. We are the only alternative and Gothic shopping experience anywhere in South Florida. Can't say we planned it that way. It was just our good fortune. We started out about 2.5 years ago at the youth fair. We went down to the youth fair with a collection of kind of, I would say mostly gift wares, kind of like the things you see in the middle of the store here, some accessories like belts and t-shirts and things like that. And we had a really good run at the fair, got a lot of excellent feedback from the people that saw the shop. As you can imagine, it's one of those things that people either love it or hate it, and the people that hated it just hold their nose up and walk by. The people that loved it went absolutely crazy for us out there. And so we took that as encouragement and we went down to Redline Village and opened a shop down at Redline Village. We were down there almost a year and, continued to develop a following. While we were there, we took home the Miami New Times Reader's Choice Award for Best Clothing Shop in Miami. Hooray. We
Wow.
felt really good about that. And, it was basically our customers and our fans that did that for us, that got us out there, got out there. And we have a very passionate community of people that support us, and we're very proud of that. So after the run at the Redline Village, it continued to grow and expand the client base, and then we wound up coming up here and opening this store and kind of taking the big bite out of the piece of cheese, if you will, and went for real, all in on it. So here we are. We've been here since July of last year. So about 8 months now, I think, go more or less. Sounds about right. So started in July 2024 and still going strong. So we're really happy with that.
That is amazing because I think it's a sense of community that people really like, and it's very special to the scene, especially for the alternative scene. So I have some questions. We can go and see which ones kind of fit better. Um, So as you mentioned, is it like the only one in South Florida? Like what you said, like have you noticed that there's like the demand is bigger because of that? That you guys are the only one?
Well, it certainly has helped us make our mark, I guess you could say, is
Mhm.
that there just wasn't anything like this at all in South Florida.
Wow.
Um, we can't take credit for planning it that way. It was just pure accident and our pure good fortune that it worked out that way. But what's happened is that the community, once they've discovered us, the support has just been fantastic beyond anything we could have ever imagined. And I think a lot of it is what you touched on, that it's all of a sudden there's a lot of people out there that are underserved and didn't feel like
Mm,
they had a place to go that they could
right.
call their own, and they have kind of adopted us, and they the people that come see us seem to feel comfortable here. We try to make them comfortable and make anybody that walks through the door feel at home, and so far it seems to be working.
That's really special. I definitely want to build on that and say like when people come here, what is like their go-to thing to get, or like what do they always say? Oh, this is what I love to buy here.
People get really excited by Trip. Trip
Really?
NYC, we've got
Mhm.
a nice selection of Trip merchandise. They get excited by Lip Service, which is,
Mhm. I've heard of that one.
nobody in this area carries Lip Service or Trip, either one. So those are probably the things that I would say are our biggest kind of go-to type brands. They like the shoes and the boots. We carry demonias. We've got a few new rocks. So it's mostly these big, well-known brands that serve this community, that this is the only place they can find them and actually try them on and check them out. Obviously, you can get it all online, but we've discovered that our customers have really embraced kind of the back to in-person shopping movement. And so, yay, good for local business, and good for our ability to stick around for a while and continue to serve the community.
Right. So going into the local business,
Mm-hmm.
right, side of it, what inspired you to get into this world? Because it's really a world here
Mm-hmm.
of like the alternative scene. Like, how would you describe that? Getting into that, like, what inspired you?
It all came from the name, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
We came up with the name a few years ago. I secured a domain name, which is freak.house. It's one of the new style of domain names. You
Hmm.
know, kind of the world has moved beyond .com, you know,
Right, right, right.
.org and so forth. So we own freak.house. We were able to get Freak House trademarked.
Oh, great.
So we own the trademark for Freak House. So once we had those things secured, it's like, okay, now what do we do about it?
Mm,
And
that's
so
true.
we started exploring with different ideas on, we wanted a business that fit the name. So we really kind of struggled with that a little bit to
Oh,
come up
wow.
with something. I fell in love with the name instantly. Um, it spoke to me. And I think part of it is that I always felt like I was a misfit as I was growing up. I was always kind of the dorky guy, a little socially awkward, a lot socially awkward, you know, had a hard time fitting in. Just, you know, all my friends were people like me that were also more or less the awkward types. And so that concept of being kind of the outcast, the misfit, has just resonated with me, and that's kind of the whole um, ethos, I guess you could
Mhm.
say, around what Freak House means to us, or what the name Freak House. So we took that and trying to come up with a concept that went with that. And we started out, as I mentioned, at the youth fair with the gift wares, like these things, the Santa Muertes, Grim Reapers, the skulls, the spiders, the wolves, the bats, the mythological creatures like the dragons and the we've got a Medusa over there. So these are the kind of things that we started out with at the youth fair, and people just reacted really well to it, as I'd mentioned. And then first thing you know, they started asking for other things. They said, "Well, you really ought to get some clothes." I said, "Really? Well,
Mm.
what kind of clothes do you suggest?" As a trip, you know. And so we really just started listening to our customers. And you know, it was one of our customers that put us on the lip service, and that's probably one of the best decisions we made between trip
Wow.
and lip service, and the demonias, obviously. These are the biggest brands in this space, and we learned about them from our customers. And so our
Wow.
customers basically told us what they want, and we listened to them, and
And
that's how we
you
got here.
gave them that what they
Yep.
wanted. Okay, okay, okay. Because Miami's culture is in a way like really like, it's like party and like, kind of crazy. And but this aesthetic is like very, like special and unique in its own way. Because it really ties in with that underground, culture in
Mhm.
Miami, right? We could touch on that.
I would say our experience with that end of things, kind of the broader culture, at least as Miami goes, is that we do try to get involved with some of the events that are coming along. We've been able to sponsor some events.
Oh, nice.
We helped sponsor a couple of World Goth Day events last year
Oh,
that went
wow.
over really well. We've helped sponsor some of the music events and kind of party events that come along now and then. One of the things that we try to do is support artists in the community, and we have a couple of artists that have shared some of their jewelry with us. We have a section down here with some handmade, local made jewelry from the local artist community. We have a lady locally that makes bags for us.
Wow.
We have a supplier by the name of Coda Winks that we're working with,
Mm.
that is a lady out of Fort Lauderdale that's a designer, and she has her own line of merchandise called Coda Winks, and
Hmm.
we've brought some of her things in over there, and she's actually helping us design some of our own things now.
Oh, wow.
So anybody that happens to visit Freak Not House, you're going to see a whole collection of things out there that Stephanie,
Yeah.
who's the lady behind Coda Winks, has designed exclusively for us. So we
Wow.
encourage everybody to go take a look at that as well. So that's kind of, I guess, our connection to the community, you might say, is
Hmm.
through these types of things where we're trying to support local artists, local craftsmen, local designers. I mean, a lot of these things can't necessarily be done locally. They're big national brands, but
Right.
where we can, we try to support the local community. And
Hmm.
we think that's part of the success. I think a lot of our customers kind of recognize that and appreciate that. And that's one of the things that's helped us.
Right, and they just keep coming back and telling you what they like,
Yep.
and all these suggestions just keep building on, this brand, right? As far as like, there's some misconceptions about the alternative fashion and culture. What can you like to go against that and like really tell people like that even though this is super different, right? Like, how can you tell people like you to keep coming to try something new? Like, come
Hmm.
over here, come to this store, and
Right.
try something that's like a whole different style than what you wear. I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack in that statement. I'll try and take it a few points at a
Right, right,
time.
right,
As far as kind of the quote alternative,
right,
I may be a little bit on my own with the way I think about this, so I'm
right,
not sure I'm in tune with the way everybody else thinks about it.
right.
But I like to think of alternative as meaning almost anybody that's kind of outside the mainstream.
Hmm.
All right. If you're like me and you feel a little awkward sometimes, a little out of place, you feel a little bit like a misfit yourself, then I think you might qualify as being alternative. And then obviously there's the other kind of more traditional, kind of alternative communities that everybody thinks about. And what we basically try to do is just treat everybody that walks through the door with respect, and that um, and I think this might be where some of the misconception comes in. And it's been a learning experience. It's been a journey for us,
Oh wow.
as we have met a lot of the customers that have come in. I mean, some of the people that walk in the door might be a little scary looking if you just happen to meet them out walking down a dark sidewalk or something like that. But when you actually meet them in a casual face to face situation, we've discovered some of the sweetest, nicest people that you can imagine. And so I
Wow.
would say that might be the misconception, or
Right.
one of them is that, um, you could see like some big burly guy with lots of tattoos all over him and spiky, and some big burly girls too, for that matter. You just kind of, you can't judge a book by the cover, and
Can't.
that's the whole key. And we've just discovered that as soon as you kind of just accept people as they come and just try to avoid any kind of judgments or anything like that.
Hmm.
We One of the things that we've noticed that's kind of interesting is that a lot of people, especially people that have been here first time,
Hmm.
okay, and especially some of the ones that kind of have a certain, that they just clearly look, I hate to use this because it sounds stereotyping, but they have an alternative look to them. There's a
Hmm.
certain people, okay,
Yeah.
and they walk through the door, and you can tell that they're a little defensive, and they've kind of got the walls up a little bit, and what we've kind of come to the conclusion is that these people are probably being mistreated in some of the places they go, and some of the stores they try and shop at, that they're not getting the right service that they
Mm.
deserve. They may even be, kind of treated badly and rudely and things like that. And like I've said earlier, we try to treat everybody with respect and welcome them into the
Right.
store. And you see a transformation in the person that walked in with this kind of really defensive, closed in attitude after they've been here
Mhm.
for a little while and
Right.
interacted with us a little bit. They just blossom
Oh
like a
wow.
flower. And it's been just incredible. You may have seen the same thing, but then again, you probably can relate better to a lot of this
Yeah.
crowd, much more so than we can. I mean, I'm an old redneck from Texas, so I don't look the part. Some of the people that work with us, like Percy Moore, kind of looked like they belong in a store like this. So that might be part of it, is that they come in and they say, me sitting here, and I go, what in the world's going on here? But then once they begin to realize that, this is a place, we like to think of it as a safe place, a comfortable place. We want people to think of this as their space so that they can come in here and enjoy themselves. And we have people that come in and hang out half the day. They're kind of shopping and kind of hanging out and kind of just socializing and even kind of talking to each other. Different groups of people will come in, and sometimes even
Yeah.
people that know each other, like, oh, hi, that kind of thing. So
So it
that's it.
really bridges that community that is there in Miami,
Mhm.
that goes to you guys for what they want, but also keeps building on that sense of community, which is really cool, I think.
Moving thing that I can think of seeing, which is one of my favorite stories, is that there was a girl that walked in that, I would say maybe she was 17, something like that. She opened the door, walked in, took a look around for a moment, and she just burst into tears. And she said, I did not think I would ever see a store for me in my whole life. You know, and I was like, wow, that's a pretty powerful thing. And
Yeah.
so that's probably my favorite story. But we've
Wow.
seen a few of those types of things, and so it's that sense of people come in and they feel at home, and I can't explain it. It's just our good fortune that we've been able to, make that kind of a connection with a lot of our customers, and it has so far it's working out really nicely.
Yeah. I like that. I really like that. I don't know if you wanted to add anything
Yeah,
in.
come over, Percy. Come say hi.
Okay, so as you've worked here,
Hmm.
what is like something that like, like motivates you, that this community that's been fostered here, like, something like
Hmm.
that. Open-ended question.
So there's a lot that really brings me joy about working here. Something I always love is when people come in here and let's say they've got like some sort of like either they have like, really big or really small feet or they're plus size. A lot of times they go to these other stores, they can't find anything for them. I love when people come in here, they're like, I know you probably won't have it, but like, do you have like a size 10? I'm a girl with big feet. Or yeah, like I'm a 3XL. I've never found anything here, much less like corsetry or something like that. And I'm like, actually, I have this directly in your size. I will, I would die before I don't give you anything in your size. And it's wonderful watching them like try these things on and light up and be like, I've never been able to find something like this. And usually it's online and the sizing's always weird. And things like that really make me happy because it's like, yeah, you have a home here, you can try stuff on and you can like find something for you that you would never find otherwise. Or things where people come in and it's like they want to get a start on like kind of being alt but they're not sure, and
Right.
they'll always give me the spiel of like, like I feel like I don't typically look like what you would expect, and like I want to try getting into some of this stuff but it feels really extreme. And like I love working with them because we have a mixture of like more casual stuff but also more of like the
Mm,
romantic goth or like more like sparkly showy type of alternative wear, and getting to put together an outfit for them and seeing them get more like comfortable and more feeling like themselves is such an awesome feeling working here. Because I know that like I was in that seat years ago where I couldn't figure out my style and I was just like, oh man. And um I'm very queer, so having that like gender struggle on top of that sucks. Um, but on the topic of being queer, it's also really nice when a lot of like queer and alt goths come in, and we get to like relate to each other. In
yeah.
that way, I've had transgender like clients come in and be like, "Hey, like I'm kind of looking for something, a little more masculine or a little more feminine. Like I'm kind of trans," and I'm like, "You don't have to say that so quiet." We got you here. We got you here. We have stuff for you. I'll help you figure it out. No judgment. And it's really nice to see them feel so safe here as well, because I know I would have loved that when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you really don't get this kind of experience at the mall, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, not at all.
So as we have that mall culture resurgence, right? It's been
Mhm.
very trendy online, and then we have like, I feel like the store kind of brings that, but in a whole different way, because people can actually enjoy their time
Mhm.
and find things they actually really want and they will enjoy wearing, rather than it's something fast fashion,
Mhm.
that might just be like 1 second and they'll fall apart. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you guys are really like, and I noticed that you guys are really like curating to your customers, and I think
Mhm.
that's why there's such a big demand for everybody to keep coming back and getting cool stuff. On the topic of like Miami as a culture as a whole, as we know, it's a very different culture. Very,
Yeah.
very like bougie and all of that stuff. What is something that you've noticed while working here that you're like, wow, this is, it like transports you to another world than the Miami that's, the Miami you see on screen?
Yeah, we've definitely had people come in and be like, "This doesn't feel like Miami," because being like goth and alt is a relatively like small subculture, especially in places like Miami. I feel like you see a lot more alt stuff up in like Fort Lauderdale or even
Mm-hmm.
all the way up in Tampa. You don't really see a lot of that down here. And while there are like, goth things and goth events that do kind of cater to that like typical Miami party lifestyle, you have a lot of like raves and goth nights that fit in line with that like partying mindset.
Right.
But I feel like you also manage to find stuff that isn't so much in line with that, like more like low key, like underground music type of events. Or
Right.
I know Hex Miami is making a little bit more of an effort to have kind of
Oh.
like sober, like daytime type of events. They recently
Oh.
had a movie screening event collaboration that was really nice. I went there.
Okay. Okay.
And I feel like here, we get those comments because again, we have such a mix of like different fashions, and we're very like open about it and
Mm-hmm.
very like non-judgmental as a space.
That's
And I
important.
get a lot of comments, people being like, Miami feels very like superficial and stuff, but I feel so like welcome here and so like not so judged here.
Right.
And I think that's kind of how we contribute to that like community feeling here
Right.
and make it feel different than Miami within Miami.
That is such a good way to like
Mhm.
encapsulate that, and you could come over here too so we can bridge some
This
closing
is this
remarks.
is your interview. I hijacked it. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You bring us such a cool perspective,
Thank
and
you.
it's very so you guys can share.
Yeah.
Is there any like remarks that you want to say to empower the community? As you mentioned, the queer community. We also have the alt community. We also have the customers you guys serve. I don't know what shout outs or messages of encouragement can you say?
I mean, it's
It's a
such
big question. It's
it's
a
a
big
big question
question.
and a big responsibility to try
Big
and speak to that
responsibility.
kind of thing. I mean, as much as anything, I just would like to ask everybody live your own best life, and we try to support that. And my wife and I are not the most ordinary people ourselves, either one. And we've I'm sure we've got things going on in our life that people might look at us and go, no, and so we've learned that from that ourselves, and we try and have more empathy, I guess you could say, for
Mhm.
other people that live different ways than we
Right.
do. I think that's the whole key is just have respect for other people, have empathy for other people, and if everybody would just kind of think of things like that, I think the whole world would get along a little better. So
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely building off that like respect and empathy, like looking like goth or alt doesn't have a
Hmm.
specific look when it comes to your personal appearance and your body. I feel like sometimes we have a lot of people who come in because, they're like nervous whether they're like trans and they feel, kind of like insecure about their gender presentation, or people who come in and they're like, man, I feel kind of ugly. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can wear this, I feel a little too old for this, like, this and that. You're never too old, and here we, understand that like um everyone needs to be treated with that level of respect, that level of empathy, and pretty much like fuck what other people think. And I know when I started working here, Jim told me, we want everyone to leave the store feeling happy. Whether or not they bought something, we want them to feel like they had a really great experience here, that they can be safe here, that they can like hang out. Um, and so it's pretty much an invite to anyone who might want to come to our store to just know that you can be yourself here. You can be your freakiest at Freak House.
I love that. I remember when I first came in because I always drive like we need to talk about the Dadeland. It's such an interesting location to put it in. I drive from the train back home to Cutler Bay sometimes, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And I was like,
yeah,
I need to pull up and see what is this. So that was my last year when I was like, I came in and I was like, what? And mind you, like my style is like I could definitely go very girly, but I don't mind, wearing some black and throwing some spikes and something. So I'm very versatile in that sense. So I was like, this is such cute stuff. Like it appealed to me, and like I guess I'm not like alt, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we're just here. You can buy whatever you want.
I guess I know for a lot of people, they take this lifestyle, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
very, very seriously. And like, especially when you think about the traditional goths from like the 80s and the 90s, they're
Yeah.
very, very serious about their lifestyle. And we respect that. I can't, I would say for us personally, it's probably more of a fashion choice. My wife and I both have really kind of fallen in love with the fashion as much as anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people that come in, it's a fashion thing. For other people that come in, it may be more of a lifestyle type of thing.
Hmm.
But it's all you got to, and I think it's probably a little bit of a segue here, but I think
Yeah.
social media has a lot to do with kind of the resurgence, I guess you could say. I
Yeah.
know everybody was saying for a long time, before we even were paying attention to the goth community, oh, goth is dead, goth is so 90s,
Mm-hmm.
goth is gone. But with TikTok and Instagram
Hmm.
you can't hardly go anywhere on either one of those platforms without being exposed to a lot of this type of fashion influence, at
Right.
least. And I think a lot of young people have really connected with the fashion, and so that's probably a big part of why we've been able to
Right.
connect with, especially some of the much younger people too, that are looking
Right.
at it more of as a fashion choice. And to some extent, that plays in a little bit to the location, as far as how
Mm-hmm.
we wound up in this particular spot. We started looking for a store, I would say maybe even as much as a year before we actually found this
Oh.
spot. And so we were looking and looking and looking, and everywhere we looked, the rents are sky high. It's a huge problem, for a small store to be able to afford anything at all. This was always kind of our target. This was for us, prime time was coming down here into this area, and we just got very fortunate that we were able to find this space in this area, prime shopping area,
Yeah.
and at a price that we could almost afford. I mean, it's a reach, but we can almost afford it. So far, we're holding on.
Good.
Sometimes we feel a little bit like the cat
Hanging
and hanging from
on.
the wire like this, but we're hanging on. And it's we feel like the location actually has
Hmm.
some bearing on the success. You've heard it: location, location, location. No matter
Location,
what you're
location.
doing, it all boils down to location.
Right.
And we actually pick up. We're adjacent to Pinecrest. We're right next door to Dadeland. We're
Right.
next door to Coral Gables. We've got the crowd right down the street, and
Hmm.
all of those things have contributed. And we, believe it or not, we get Pinecrest families that walk in here now and then. They look like they just left a Sunday afternoon church social or something, and they walk in all decked out, and the kids are all decked out, and by decked out I mean like Sunday afternoon church
Best.
decked out, and they walk out with bags full of trip and lip service and things like that. It is really cool. So the location has really been a huge factor for us, and I think it fits in with the fact it's a prime shopping location. We're able to get here and be part of that instead of being in some, shop stuck way out in the middle of nowhere where
That's
it was
hard.
harder
Yeah.
to find us. The location's been a huge
Of
part of
course.
the story for us.
I'm so thankful for you guys for having this space. Everybody that really loves that style, both if it's a lifestyle or is it just wearing it for fun or just coming in, like what you said, like just to come in to shop. I mean, I want to do that. Like, I need to do that. I love to shop. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really thankful. And everybody check them out and come and shop and,
Uh,
be part of this community that's so fun. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.